So there's a lot of disruption in the industry right now, a lot of exciting trends happening. Are there any that you're particularly fond of and excited to get into?
I'm personally less excited about like the spreading out of platforms and that kind of thing. I think that presents some challenges to getting voices heard that deserve to be heard, but I love like the diversity thing, both in terms of race, gender, all of it, all the kinds of diversity that we see happening in Hollywood is super exciting. I think there's, like they say, there's a total of 8 different stories in the history of the world. You know, like the hero's journey, all the revenge story, that kind of thing. Tired of seeing white dudes do it all, to be quite honest. So it's really cool to see like different voices behind the camera, and then also different faces in front of the camera. I think that's like the number one thing happening for me in Hollywood.
Okay, so this is speaking to the new screenwriters or TV writers in the room. Someone's written their first script. Who should see it, and at what point should they start showing it to potential investors, attachments, influential partners?
I'm going to tell you who should see it. Pick the person that is most honest and make sure they read it first.
Find the person who's going to be honest with you and that's going to tell you something that you don't necessarily want to hear. And chances are it's probably not going to be your closest friends or your family. Like, they don't want
Unless I'm your friend. I will tell you.
You can hang out with her at the bar later.
Not really,
no.
But another time.
But find someone who's really going to be honest with you, because I see, my job is getting scripts and reading scripts, and a lot of times I get like, unattributed quotes about how great the script is, and then I read it, and there's no possible way they came from someone who is in the industry that's really doing good work. So I think that's the most important thing, is before you send it to anyone in the industry, unless you know them personally, get some honest feedback from someone you know.
I don't care how big or small a project is, you need to have whatever your relationship is memorialized. And most of the time, when people don't do that, it ends up costing them a lot of money. And so there is no, well, if it's a short film, you don't need a contract. You need a contract. You need to have work for hire language in every contract so that you don't have somebody making a copyright claim in the future. I mean, there's so many things that go wrong when you don't define a relationship. So bottom line is, you need to protect yourself. You need to have an agreement. It doesn't need to be 20 pages. It needs to have the principal terms of whatever your relationship is, and certain clauses that are standard in every entertainment contract. And nowadays, there's just no excuse. People have the information is accessible. It just ends up costing you more money if you don't do it the right way the first time. So.
I think you need to define your roles if you're doing any co-production. So who is doing what before you even start, and then also too with any production, I think you need to have an exit strategy, because everyone goes into projects with the best intentions and everyone thinks they're going to do great, but people think that the goal line is to get the project done, but actually that's not the goal line. The goal line is to sell the thing. So you got to think more long term. So I think you need to have a conversation, especially if if you don't have experienced people. If you're trying to get work together, that can be really dangerous, especially like working with first time directors or first time anything, because they if bumps happen in the road, then egos are there and it kind of all falls apart. So yes,
and you're stuck with that.
Yes, you should talk to Nina first, kind of like get some kind of agreement, some agreements in place. It doesn't have to be a lot, but just have like some kind of foundation where you have something to start with before you begin anything.
Well, speaking of trust and the risk involved in potentially working with a first timer of any kind, what is it, if you guys are considering a co-pro seriously or executive producing a project, what are you looking for in that producer or producer team that makes them trustworthy to you?
You want to find people that take responsibility for their mistakes, or, you know, basic things like common sense, team players, you know, can get along with people, can handle, you know, stressful situations, and also that are going to be committed, because most of these films, I mean, they take like 3 to 5 years to make. So if you're not willing to make that commitment, this is not, the indie film world is not going to be a good one for you.
Explain the importance of considering the distribution landscape, and at what point in the filmmaking process filmmakers should think about a distribution strategy? Pre-production, post-production, production, or development before pre-production?
So it's a difficult thing, but one of the kind of greatest tools as a development, a person in development is like a shopping agreement, because it allows, and I'm not necessarily encouraging you guys to do that if it's your project, but it gives me the opportunity to pitch the concept without optioning the script to distributors, directly to the people who are gonna sell the thing. So that just, in my mind, goes to show how important it is to think of the distribution at the very earliest stages of the process. Know your market and work towards that. And if you look at my company, NASA Entertainment's resume or their credits, like, people come in and like, you guys you're all over the map, every genre. That's because we've worked so closely with our distributors and can respond to the market very well. So, for example, about a year ago, several distributors were like, every Western you can give us, we want to see them all. Very quickly that died out, but guess what? We have a Western that's going to be we're going to get a 10 market release in a couple months. So like, knowing what is popular and having contacts at the distribution end cannot be, I can't emphasize how important that is when you're developing a writer.
How about we jump into the financing plan? So how would a filmmaker go about making a financial plan for their film? What are pre-sales? What are the different types of equity? How deep do you suggest they go chasing after money?
I have just kind of some advice for first-time filmmakers. You're not going to make a $5 million film if you've never made a film before. Get that out of your head. Make a $200,000 film, because that's realistic. It's not what people want to hear, you know, but I'm not here to tell people what they want to hear. This is the reality of it. No one is going to give you $5 million if you have no credits. Go and get some credits. It's just unbelievable to me that people think that they can jump from A to Z without all these steps in the way. This whole industry is built on credits. That's what people look at. And so, you know, I just think that they need to find projects, you know, producers, first-time film producers, find projects that are doable. Don't go trying to make a $7 million film when you've never even raised money before. It's just, who's going to give you that money?
Dope was made for $700,000. It was sold for $10 million. So just telling a story well, people want to see good stories. I will stack our movie I'll See You in My Dreams against the Avengers any day, because it's a real story. You will watch it, you will laugh and cry, and that's what people want. People want real stories. They don't want schlocky stuff out there. They want real stories. So if you're a filmmaker and you have a really good story, you have a chance to tell something really good. Just tell that story really well. Talk to someone that's put a film fund together. That would be one. I know a guy that's actually putting a film fund together. I think with that is that with film fund, you have to like, what are you setting up for your film fund? Like, what is it going to be about? Is it going to be promoting, you know, strong women, and we want to do those kind of films, or we want to do family friendly or whatever? So it's like, I think to attract people to that film fund that want to invest in it, you have to kind of break down the kind of projects that you want to do.
So our final question is, let us learn from your experience in terms of what is the best advice or worst piece of advice you have ever received in your career?
As everyone probably knows, this industry is based on relationships. The more people you know, you can leverage those relationships. You can get access to people you might not come across in your daily life, and treat it like a job. I mean, I probably go to breakfast, lunch, or dinner every single day of the week, and I have people that think I'm crazy because I do that, but because I do that, I know a lot of people, and that ends up being very valuable to me. And I think that creative people, a lot of them are sometimes they're shy, or they're so involved in their projects, but it's just as important for them to get out there and meet people and shake hands and find out, who's doing what, and at some point they are going to be able to leverage those relationships. So that's the best advice that I've ever received, is just go out there and meet people.
I think if you're waiting to get all the answers, it's never going to happen. So it's better, like, I missed out. There was a book that I wanted to get the rights, and I was debating on how to get those rights, and guess what? When I called back, they were taken. There's a lot of people around. A lot of people are not willing to give advice because they're too freaking insecure. But there's other people that are willing to share, and they want to get the information out there. So you can call me. I may not give you money, but I'll give you some advice. I'll help you. And I don't have all the answers either. I'm learning like everybody else.
I would say the worst advice that I've gotten is typically given as a best piece of advice, but now seeing it from the other end, this is for writers. The worst advice is write what you know. And there's a big caveat to that. Use what you know in your writing, but some of the worst scripts I've read, and not technically, I mean they're sound technically, are people writing their own stories. Think about who you're up against. The past few years have seen films about Martin Luther King Jr., Louis Zamperini, NWA, like the list goes on. Schindler's List, like the people that your story is up against are historical monuments. So if you're writing what you know, now use what you know. If you're like first job I had in LA was service desk at Home Depot. I learned a lot from that. And I can use that, and I don't mean like I know how to do plumbing, but I get like the interaction of the people I learned while doing that, I can use to inform stuff that I write. But if I write a story about the service desk at Home Depot, no. So use what you know in your writing. Don't necessarily write what you know.
I have some more good advice.
Jump in.
And I think this applies to any industry, any type of business. If you don't feel good about a working relationship, if people aren't treating you well, walk away. Don't keep investing in a bad relationship. I've seen so many people just stay in projects when things were not going right, or people were just not keeping their word, and they dragged it on and on and on and on. And the instincts are usually right. If you don't feel good about somebody, it's probably because they're not a good person. So trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to say no, and see you later, I'm going to move on to the next person. There will be somebody else that will fill whatever role that is, whether it's a producer that you came on and didn't do what they were supposed to do, or and maybe an actor that you really like but they're insane. Just walk away. It's okay. You will still make your film.